Good morning to everyone. In this subject of manufacturing technology, we are talking about foundry technology or metal casting process. And in that metal casting process, up to now, we have discussed regarding the importance of metal casting process. Then we talked about the various steps involved in metal casting process. Then we talked about pattern, the importance of the pattern, various types of material which is used as a pattern. We have also talked about various allowances which applied to the pattern, and then we have seen various types of pattern. So there are total 11 various types of pattern that what we have discussed in our series of lecture in this foundry technology. So today we are talking about our next important component of metal casting process, which is a sand. First is a pattern. Pattern, that is the replica of the model that we are going to produce. Okay, and in that designing and manufacturing of the pattern, certain allowances that we have to consider. So that what we have discussed. Now we are talking about the second important component or ingredients of this metal casting process. It is a molding sand. So sand is the most widely used mold material for casting ferrous and non-ferrous metal from few gram to few tons. So it has a wide variety, okay, wide range. In that one we can cast very small product to a very big product by using this sand casting process. And the main reason for this is that the sand fulfills service requirement at reasonably lower cost than the other material, and this is the most important thing. And when the sand is properly mixed with other element, it constitutes one of the best material for the mold. And the various source from where we can get the molding sands are river beds, lakes, sea, and deserts. So while in this sand casting process, we have to mix that sand with other elements like clay and water. And when they are mixed properly with each other in a certain proportional ratio, then it constitute the best material for the mold. And the various types of molding sand that can be used is grouped as: first it is a natural sand, the natural sand. Second, the sand can be categorized as a synthetic sand, and third one is a special sand. So one by one we are going to discuss about all the three types of sand. So first one is a natural sand. So natural sand can be used directly for making mold as soon as it received from its source. Okay, so from the whatever be the source from the natural sand, for the natural sand the source will be a river bed or lake or sea or desert. Okay, so that sand, we whatever the sand we collected from the source, we can directly use that sand without any processing. Okay, so that sand is natural sand and we can use it, and it contain binding materials about. In that sand it has certain uh, binding materials like 5 to 20% of clay, and we add around 5 to 8 percentage of water to mix. So it contain or it can maintain moisture content for a long time, and also contain considerable amount of organic matter, because the sand that what we are getting from the nature, okay, from the original source, and we are not doing any processing, and we directly use that sand. That's why it's not only contain a sand particle, but it also contains some organic matter, and due to that it can maintain moisture for a long period of time. And this type of sand permits easy patching and finishing of mold. So during molding process, we have to patch that sand all around the pattern, and in that case we get a good finished mold. And natural sands are less refractory than synthetic sands and also less costly. Okay, so here it is less refractory. So what is refractoriness, that we are going to discuss in the subsequent slides. Okay, but it is less refractory. Okay, so here the word is used a less refractory. And what is refractory and why this less refractory may affect to the mold, that we are going to discuss. Okay, but here it is a less refractory and it is having a low cost, and hence natural sands are used for cast irons and non-ferrous castings. Okay, so generally for cast iron and for non-ferrous castings, this natural sand is used as a molding sand. Then second is a synthetic sand. So synthetic sand consists of a natural sand with or without clay, moisture and binder like bentonite. Okay, so that is the synthetic sand. It consists of a natural sand with or without clay, with or without clay, moisture and binder like bentonite. Okay, bentonite, that is a one kind of a clay that what we have seen in our one video. Okay, so hence this sand is formulated sand. It is not a natural sand, it is a formulated sand. And these type of sands are used for steel and other ferrous and non-ferrous alloy casting. Okay, so in that for the steel, for the cast iron and for non-ferrous we can use natural sand. Generally we use natural sand for a steel, and for ferrous and non-ferrous alloys we use a synthetic sand. And the synthetic sand has the following advantage as compared to the natural sand. So what are the advantages? First, it requires less proportion of binders. It require less proportion of binder because it is a processed sand, and in that one we have some clay and we have other binder like bentonite which is already available. So it require less proportion of binder, high refractoriness and permeability. Okay, so here the refractoriness is higher, while in natural sand we have seen that the refractoriness is less. Okay, so here it has a higher refractoriness and higher permeability. Okay, so permeability, it is also a one property of a molding sand. So we are going to discuss all these properties of the sand one by one. Okay, so at that time we will understand that what is permeability, what is refractiveness and all other properties of the sand. Properties can be easily controlled. Here all the properties of the sand which can be easily controlled. Refractory grain size is more uniform. It is more suitable in mass production and mechanized foundries, and it is require less storage space. Okay, so these are the some of the advantages of synthetic sand as compared to natural sand. So that's why this synthetic sand is preferred in case of steel and ferrous and non-ferrous alloy casting. Then third is a special sands. Third type of sand is a special sand, and in that special sand we have a certain category of the sand. So first one is a green sand. It is the sand which is in condition and contain 5% of water and 15 to 20% of clay. Okay, in that one we have a 5% of water and 15 to 30% of clay. Molds and cores both can be made up by using green sand. And green sand molds are poured in a green condition. Okay, so here green condition means, green means it is in a wet condition. Okay, it is not in a dry condition, and it is preferred for producing simple, small and medium sized casting. Okay, so here the when we can consider the sand is a green sand if it contain around 15 to 30% clay and 5% of water, then it is considered as a green sand. Then second one is a loam sand. It contains more amount of clay as compared to other sand, and it is up to 50 percentage. Here you can see the percentage of sand is only 15 to 30 percentage. Okay, but if the amount of sand is up to 50 percentage, then it will be considered as a loam sand. Loam sand dries hard because as we can see that the percentage of clay is high. Okay, when it will become dry, it will become very hard. Okay, its ingredients are fine sands, fine ground refractories, clay, graphite and fibrous reinforcements. Okay, so here we instead in addition with the clay, sand and water, it has certain amount of some finely ground refractories, it has certain amount of graphite and it has certain amount of fibrous reinforcements. Okay, and it is useful for making mold for a heavy and large parts. When we have a very bulky and a large part, in that case we can use a loam sand, while for a small, simple and medium size casting we can use green sand. Then next one is a core sand. Core sand is different from molding sand as it is very low clay content. In that one, the clay content is very low and their grain size is large to increase the permeability. Okay, so here another term, this one is the permeability. Okay, so here we require a higher permeability so that the size of the grain size of the sand that will be kept large, so that all the air and gas which can easily go out from the sand, because this core is used to make the hollow part into the molds. Okay, and it is silica sand mixed with core oil, which is composed of linseed oil, resin, light mineral oil and other binding materials. Okay, so in that case we have a linseed oils, resin, light mineral oil and some other kinds of binders which is mixed with the sand. And the core sand is suitable sand mixture also used for making the core. Okay, so when we are going to produce a core, which the mixture that we done with all these ingredients like linseed oil, resin, light material and other binding material, then it will be useful for making the cores. Then next one is a parting sand. So parting sand, we have seen the video in that one. When one core box is put on another core box, so to retain that mold box separated, we have seen that they sprinkle certain powders. Okay, so that powder means it is a very fine form of a sand, and that sand that will not allow to stick that two part of the mold with each other. That's why it is termed as a parting sand. It will part separates two mold box. That's why it is known as a parting sand. So it consists of a dry, okay, here it is consists of a dry silica sand, sea sand or burnt sand. It will be always in a dry form because we are going to separate both the mold, and that's why it is a dry. If it is having a more certain amount of moisture, then the sand itself will stick with one of the mold box. So whatever the purpose of that parting sand, that will not fulfill. So that here the parting sand, that will be a dry sand, and it is used to keep green sand from sticking here. It is used to green sand sticking from the pattern, and also allow the sand of the parting surface of the cope and drag to separate without clinging. Okay, so that is why it is this parting sand is used. And the parting sand compounds may be dry, okay, or liquid, but generally we are using dry. And dry parting substance are charcoal, ground bone, limestone, ground nut shells, etc. We can use as a part of or the parts of that dry sand. While in case we use some liquids sand, then it has a petroleum jelly mixed with oil, paraffin, and stearic acid. Okay, so when we use liquid parting sand, then this will be the content, and when it will be a dry parting sand, it has a charcoal or a ground bone or limestone or groundnut cells, which is used as the ingredients of the parting sand. So first is a green sand, second one is a loam sand, third is a core sand, fourth is a parting sand. Then next one is the facing sand. So it is fresh and specially prepared molding sand which covers the pattern all around it, which covers the pattern all around it. Okay, so suppose this is the molding box. Okay, so and in that molding box, suppose we are going to fix a pattern over here. So we have to fill the sand all around this pattern in that box. Okay, so what happened, that all the sand particle which is in contact with the surface of this mold box, that may try to stick with that surface of the mold box. So when you are uh, relieving that sand, it is quite difficult. So what here we are doing, we are using a fresh sand all around the all around the pattern, so that here this pattern we are using. Why? Because the pattern should be easily removed. Okay, now if if we do not use the facing sand, then the pattern which is also going to stick very hard with this the sand. So the removal of the uh, pattern, which is very difficult. So what we do, we use a facing sand. So first we suppose this is the molding box, and that molding box is put on a some surface, and this one is our pattern. Okay, this one is our pattern. So all around the pattern we initially sprinkle or spread this facing sand, so that the withdrawal of the pattern which is easy. Okay, so that's why it is used a facing sand. From the name you can easily understand, all around the face of the pattern it is used. And that facing sand comes in direct contact with the molten metal being poured. Okay, so when we remove this pattern, so here that hollow cavity is created, and in that hollow cavity when we pour the metal, molten metal, that molten metal that will be directly in contact with this sand only. Okay, so hence it should possess much improved properties than the other sand. Okay, so whatever the sand all around this and whatever the property of this sand, okay, that should be different. Why? Because this sand has to face the molten metal which is coming from the gate, okay, while this sand that has to be separated from this one, okay. So that's why we are using a facing sand, and it reduces the mold material cost. And various facing materials are plumb bags, okay, graphite, talc and molasses are used as a facing sand. Then backing sand, okay, so whatever the sand that we are using over here, that is known as a backing sand, okay. So it is the sand which back up the facing sand and does not come in direct contact with the pattern, okay. So here we, as we know that this sand, it is a facing sand, and whatever the other sand all around this, that is known as a backing sand, and that backing sand is not directly come in contact with this pattern, and this sand has black color, and hence sometime it is known as a black sand, okay. So backing sand is also termed as a black sand, and it should be cleaned off the foreign matter like fins, nails, okay, etc. before the use, and it is the floor sand which can be used again and again. So okay, so this sand which can be used for again and again in many casting application, okay. So once you have used it, you can use it again for the next casting, okay. So that's why this backing sand is reusable sand. So these are the 6 various types of special sand. First we have talked is a natural sand, second one is a synthesis sand, and third one is a special sand. In that one, green sand, loam sand, core sand, parting sand, facing sand, and backing sand. Then, as you talked earlier, that the sand, molding sand has a certain properties. So that all this property we are going to discuss one by one. So first, uh, flowability or plasticity. So it is the ability of the molding sand to get compacted to a uniform density, because we fill the sand all around the pattern, okay. So if we again simply draw the diagram here, okay, this is our mold box, this is our mold box, and in that one we have a pattern over here, okay. This is our pattern, okay. Now we have to fill the sand all around this pattern into the mold box, and we use a ramming, or it is one kind of a hammering operation to get compacted the sand. But here we require a uniformity. Whatever the sand compacted over here, that should be as equal with all other portion into the same molding box, okay. So the compacting density of the sand, that should be remain uniform, and that is possible by using by only of the flowability of the sand, and that's why the flowability is important. It assists molding sand to flow and pack all around the pattern and take up the desired shape, okay. So if the sand has not a proper amount of flowability, then what happen, that some portion that will pack very well with the sand, and some portion will not pack with the sand, and if you try to lift this mold, then that there may be chance that whatever your packed sand, that may be destroyed. So that the sand that must be go all around the whole area of the mold box, and that's why it require a one property that is known as a flowability, and it increases with the amount of clay and water. Okay, so the flowability of the sand, which can be improved by proper amount of clay and water mixed into the sand. So that's how we can improve the uh, flowability of the sand. Second is the green strength. So it is the strength of the sand in the green or moist condition. It is the strength of the sand in the green or moist condition. A mold which has adequate green strength will retain its shape and does not distort or collapse even after the pattern has been removed from the mold box. Okay, so why this green strength is required? Because as we know that we have fixed this pattern into the mold box. Now we want to remove the pattern. We want to remove the pattern, and after removing the pattern, we have hollow cavity which is generated over here. And if the sand has not enough strength, then what happen? In that hollow cavity, the sand may rust, or whatever our desired purpose to get a hollow cavity over here which is not fulfilled. Okay, so what we require? After removing the pattern, the sand what is all around this mold box, that should remain as it is. It should not deform, and that is because of the strength of the sand, which is known as a green strand. And why it is known as green sand? Because we add some amount of clay and water. Okay, so as it has certain amount of water, it is termed as a green strength. Whatever the strength which is required at that position, because here whatever the sand we have added, it has a certain amount of water, clay container, and due to that water, it is termed as a moisturized sand. So in that case, it should not, or it should have a adequate strength so that it will retain the shape. Okay, it will retain the shape, and which does not distort or collapse. It does not distort or collapse when we remove the pattern. Okay, so after removing the pattern, the sand should not distort or collapse, and that strength is known as a green strength. And that green strength helps in making and handling the mold. If the sand do not have proper amount of green strength, then we cannot easily handle, or we cannot even able to make the mold. And that's why this green strength is important property of a sand. Then if the mold is hardened in contact with the pattern surface with adequate green strength, then high degree of dimension accuracy and stability can be obtained. Okay, so that is why the green strength is important. To get a higher dimensional accuracy and stability, we require a green strength. Okay, so this is another property of the mold sand. It has a green strength. Then dry strength. It is the strength of the molding sand in dry state. Here it is in a moisturized condition. Here it is in a dry state. A sand must have sufficient dry strength to withstand erosion of the mold wall sand, enlargement of mold cavity during the flow of molten metal. Okay, so now why this dry strength comes? Because as we know that, again the same diagram. Okay, here this is our mold box, and in that one we have already generated a hollow cavity by removing the pattern. Okay, so here we have a hollow cavity. This is suppose our hollow cavity inside the mold box. Okay, this is our hollow cavity, and all around this we have a sand. Now initially this sand is in a moisturized condition. Why? Because we have added some amount of water and clay, and in that case we require a dry green strength. But now if we fill the molten metal, inside that hollow cavity, so that molten metal that will be at a very high temperature. Suppose if we take the example of aluminum, it may be more than 800 degrees Celsius. Okay, it may be more than 800 degrees Celsius. The molten metal that we are pouring, that will be more than 800 degrees Celsius. Now in that case we know that the uh, boiling point of water is only 100 degrees Celsius. Okay, boiling point of water is only 100 degrees Celsius. So when this molten metal that will pour inside the hollow cavity, okay, so whatever the moisture all around this pattern, okay, whatever the moisture all around this pattern, that will convert it into steam and or vapor, and it will goes into the environment, because it require only 100 degrees Celsius, while the temperature of that molten metal is very high as compared to that 100 degrees Celsius. So that whatever the moisture or water content all around this hollow cavity, that will be evaporated, so that the sand all around this hollow cavity, that will become dry, and that dry strength is required. Why? Because if the sand become dry, and in that case if it do not has a strength, then what happen? The dry sand that will come into that hollow cavity, and it will mix with your molten metal. And if that sand that will go inside the molten metal, and then it will be solidified, then what happen? That it is a defect. You are not getting a uniform casting product. That's why the green strength is required, and the sand should not erode. The sand should not erode when we fill the molten hollow cavity with the molten metal, and that's why the this dry strength is the important property of the molding sand. And the dry strength is related to grain size, binder, water content that we uh, add into the sand. Okay, so that's how we can control the dry strength by grain size, the types of binder, and amount of water content into the molding sand. Then this one is the permeability. We have used this word here, permeability. Okay, here we have permeability. Okay, so what is that permeability? Here we have seen that for a natural sands, here we have seen that the permeability. So what that permeability means? The permeability, or it is also known as a porosity. So molten metal always contains some amount of dissolved gases. Molten metal, whatever the molten metal here we are pouring, it has certain amount of dissolved gases which are evolved when the metal solidified. Okay, so when it will be in liquid form, it will dissolve some gases, but here in the hollow cavity it will be solidified, and when it will solidified, whatever the dissolved gas is, that they are evolved, means they will come out. So this is one reason. Second, when the molten metal comes in contact with the moisture of the sand, it generates steam or vapor, as we seen in the case of a dry strand. Okay, so there are two reasons to generate gas. First reason is that the dissolved gases into the molten metal, that will be evolved. This is the one reason. And second reason, when that high temperature molten metal that will come with the sand, whatever the moisture inside the sand, it is also come into the uh, uh, contact, so that it is come into the steam form, so that we have a two state of gases. So all the gases which is generated either in the form of this dissolved gas or steam or vapor, that must be escaped, that must be escaped throughout this hollow cavity. Otherwise what happen, they will be trapped inside the molten metal and they will create a bubble, and bubble means it is a one kind of a casting defect. So what property we require, the property we require is that the sand should escape all these generated gases completely from the mold. So if the gases and water vapors generated by the mold sand do not find opportunity to escape completely through the mold, then they will form a holes, sand spores into the casting. Okay, so what it require, it require a path, or it require a chance to opportunity to escape completely from the mold. And hence, or how we can give that opportunity, that the sand must be porous to allow the gases and steam generated within the mold to be removed freely. Okay, so the sand must be porous so that whatever the gas generated which can be,
What more disturbance rating?
okay, which can be removed easily. And this property of the sand, which is known as the porosity. Okay, so simply this porosity is controlled by the size of the sand. Okay, so suppose if we take a grain size of a large size, okay, if we take the grain size of the sand of large size, then as we know that here this is the porosity. Okay, this is the gap between the sand particles. Now instead of that, if we take small particles, if we take small particles, okay, then the amount of gap between that sand particles is very small, means the porosity is less. So in that case, if we have a very fine particles, in that case the permeability is very less, means the gas path, the gas required the path to escape out is very difficult over here, while here the gas can easily go through all this gap and it can easily escape out, so that the whatever the gas and steam generated over here which can be easily removed, so that we can have a sound casting. And that's why the permeability and porosity, it is one of the important property of the molding sand. Then next one is the refractoriness. It is the ability of a molding sand to withstand higher temperature, withstand at higher temperature without fusion, cracking, buckling, and hence facilitating a clean casting. So as we know that the sand, if we heat, if you give a heat to a very high temperature, it is not going to melt, or it is also not going to fuse, or you do not find any crack on the surface of the sand if you heat it very hard. Okay, at a higher temperature, or its shape is also not going to deform. So that is the very good property of the sand, and that property is known as a refractoriness. And the amount of this property depends upon the metal which is to be cast. Okay, so for a higher temperature melting metal, the refractoriness as compared to that lower temperature metal, that may be different. And if the sands lack of this property, then it slacks on the surface of the mold and smooth casting surface can be obtained. Okay, so this is how this refractoriness, which is a important property of the molding sand. So it is the ability of the molding sand to withstand at a higher temperature, because as we know that it will be poured at very high temperature. Okay, it is only for aluminum, that's why this one. If we cast a steel or alloy, then it has a very high temperature of around 1700 1800 degrees Celsius. In that case, the sand has to withstand at that higher temperature. It should not get a fused, it should not get a cracked, it should not get buckled. Okay, so that's why this refractoriness is very important. Then next one is the adhesiveness. It is the property of the molding sand, uh, because of which it is capable of adhering the surface of the other material. Adhesiveness means it will the surface of the sand will adhere with another surface. So why this is required? Because here the sand must stick with this molding box, then and then it will get enough strength. Okay, so if the sand do not have adhesiveness, then the sand will not going to stick very well with the molding box, and the the mold may destroy when you are going to turn it around. Okay, so that's why it is the property of the sand which is capable of adhering the surface of the sand with the other material. And also with this property, gaggers are able to hold bulky and sand projections of the mold. And due to this property, the heavy sand mass is successfully held in a molding flask and manipulated as required. So that is the this adhesiveness is very important property of the sand to stick that sand with other, so that very bulky sand mass, very bulky sand mass which also can be easily handled without falling down of the mold. Okay, so this is the adhesiveness. Then next property is the cohesiveness. It is the property of the sand due to which the sand particles stick together with each other. In adhesiveness, they are sticking with the sand, with the mold box or any other particle, but the sand and sand particle also must stick with each other, and that property is known as cohesiveness. And that property helps in withdrawing the pattern from the mold without damaging the mold surface and edges. And due to cohesiveness, the mold faces get adequate strength so that they can easily take the pressure of the molten metal, and they do not wash out under this pressure of that molten metal. And it is also similar to that of green sand, and it depends upon the size, clay and moisture content. Then thermal stability, to avoid breaking, buckling and flaking of mold surface at higher temperature, and the sand possesses dimension stability at and thermal stability if the casting may have defects like cuts and washes. Okay, so that's why this thermal stability is important. If the thermal stability is not there, then there will be a defect like cuts and washes. And final property is the collapsibility. It is the property due to which the sand mold automatically collapse after freezing of the casting. So after preparing the mold and after we have molten, fill the molten metal inside the cavity and it is solidified. Now we want to remove the object from the sand. For that one, we have to collapse the sand, we have to break the sand. And if the collapsibility of the sand is not good, then what happens? Then it is very difficult to take out the final component from the sand. But here the collapsibility of the sand is very good, so that we can easily collapse that sand and we can take out the use. And it is the property of the, if the property of the sand is absent, then the casting will result in tears and cracks. Okay, but generally it has a good collapsibility, so that we can easily take out the component from the mold. Okay, so these are the property of the molding sand, and some other discussion that we will see in our next lecture.